737 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. Want to welcome on in Metro Council's Courtney Johnston. Courtney, always great to have you on WTN. And I think the mayor, Freddie O'Connell, there's a couple of things going on, as you know. Number one is, of course, the raising of the property taxes to roughly 26%. That's number one. Number two, he also spoke about LPRs, which obviously is near and dear to your heart. And so we're going to talk about both really quickly, though. I want to play you some audio and just have you react. This is Mayor Freddie O'Connell, and this was last Thursday, talking about wanting to raise property taxes.
Many of you undoubtedly walked past folks this morning who believe that property tax going up for any Nashvilleian by any amount is unnecessary, just more government spending. These are the same people celebrating the chaos of federal cuts, which, make no mistake, are not about efficiency. What they won't tell you is what they're proposing means we wouldn't fund our school services and safety. We wouldn't open a new police precinct in Southeast Nashville, wouldn't have the new police flex unit shrink the amount of time you have to wait when there's an emergency, wouldn't expand safety in schools.
So, Courtney, of course, the mayor basically saying that without these property taxes increase, the students are going to be unsafe, we're going to have no cops in the street and so forth. What's your reaction?
Well, first of all, good morning. Thanks for having me. I would say a lot of that is nonsense. We have done some things. The school board has finally agreed to do some things to make the schools safer. One of the things that he said he was adding was 23 SROs. That's just not true. The 23 officers that were added in this budget are for the rapid response team, which are highly trained for specifically responding to school threats. But they are not SROs that are in the schools every day where little Johnny knows that Officer Jones is my SRO. That's just false. The D detail is something that actually started last year, where they took CET officers, which were our community engagement team, and created that D detail. So we've already had the D detail. So saying that he's funding, it's a lot of word salad and a lot of spinning. But it was disappointing to hear him disparage people that were out peacefully expressing themselves on this property tax increase or proposed property tax increase, especially on the heels of 5 years ago, such an historic property tax increase where we really haven't seen any new city services. We have a higher bill, but we aren't receiving better or more services. And so there was nothing in his speech that was surprising, but a lot of it, I just shook my head.
Well, it seems like he's doing a version of a straw man argument where it's like, how dare you not be for yet another property tax increase, because all of these horrendous things are going to happen. And I think that it does seem like he is misrepresenting the facts. And based on what you laid out, clearly he is. One of the things Courtney Johnston, the mayor, said is that inflation and the federal government was responsible for property taxes being raised in the last several years. I do want to play the quote.
But we've lost a reliable partner in the federal government, and that's impacting our community's work on many levels. Estimates reveal nearly 400 Nashville nonprofits are at risk of losing funding to the tune of $1.5 billion. Vanderbilt University Medical Center has already revealed that they're cutting their budget by as much as $250 million. And Metro has been ghosted on awarded funds of tens of millions of dollars. But we're not standing idly by as the federal government unlawfully tries to cut funding that's legally ours. We've told them we'll see you in court.
So that is, of course, the mayor. Effectively, it sounds like he is blaming Donald Trump for it, although he later denied it. But it does seem like he's blaming Trump and the federal government for him having to raise property taxes. Do you have a comment on that?
Well, inflation was at its highest, I believe it was 2 years ago. I think have COVID brain when it comes to timing, where we were, what is 9%?
I think it was, Courtney, I think it was either 9.3, 9.4, 9.7%. And yes, that was during Joe Biden.
Right. And so we didn't raise property taxes then. The increase has obviously slowed. The inflation rate is obviously much less than that now. And who knows what's going to happen with the funding for some of these nonprofits. None of that has anything to do with our operating budget. The only thing that has anything to do with our operating budget, there's a way to really kind of explain that it doesn't, is the grants that we were awarded and we have been ghosted on, which is unfortunate. But nobody can say, because I've asked finance, which grants have we lost, and there's not one of them that we've lost so far, and especially anything that would affect our operating budget. These are special projects that the grants were funding. One thing that I will say there is that it's unfortunate that we have 3 congressmen that represent Davidson County, and there is some uncertainty around some of these grant funds, and we're receiving no communication. There's no liaison there to help us sort of mitigate and figure out, is this something that we can depend on, or do we need to pivot? So that is unfortunate, yes. But not necessarily something that would impact our operating budget. Certainly not to the tune of a 26, almost 27% increase.
No, that's obviously, Captain Obvious here, a hefty increase, especially coming off what happened several years ago. And it does seem to me that they are making the problem of affordable housing worse. I mean, not only in Davidson County, but across Middle Tennessee, because they're forcing people into the suburbs of Williamson and Wilson and Rutherford counties, and they are getting more expensive as well. And so he keeps talking, and the Democrats keep talking about affordable housing, but they're making the problem much worse all across Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, you can't disagree with that. I mean, I've had, I don't know how many phone calls from some of my elderly constituents or their families that are concerned about not being able to continue to pay. Most of these people have their houses paid off. And so that really does affect when their bill goes up, $100, $200, $300 a month. That is significant. And so you are driving people out. And, in my neighborhood especially, but across Davidson County, when we have our elderly people that are driven out of their homes that they've been in for decades and generations, those houses are not going to all of a sudden become affordable. They will either be renovated or they will be knocked down and a behemoth will be put in its place. But the other thing that people aren't talking about, we're talking about homeowners, but what about the small businesses? Because our commercial businesses are receiving a property tax increase as well. And so prices are going to go up there. They have to mitigate that in some way. And so that's also a serious concern for me. When we start losing our small businesses, that starts the mass exodus.
I'm going to ask you, Courtney, coming up next, about whether or not you believe that Nashville is run efficiently. I got to check the traffic, though, which is usually not efficient. 7:45, time to check the roads on WTN. Today, a high of 65, lingering showers. Courtney Johnston is joining us from Metro Council. So a couple of things real quick. Number one, how can we be assured that Metro is being run efficiently as it relates to the mayor's office? How do we know that there's places where they could or should be able to cut?
Well, I think one of the offices that I think is completely underfunded is our audit function. And we've bolstered that over the last couple of years with a few new full-time employees. I'm on that committee, and it's been really interesting. I've triggered several audits that have revealed areas where we could improve, and in some ways greatly improve. I think there's definitely room for improvement as far as efficiencies, and I think it's going to take a really good deep dive, especially into contracts that we have, because you can audit something and say, "Yep, you're managing this contract properly." But what is the cost of the contract? And is that cost appropriate? Mm-hmm. And is that cost something that's comparable to other cities that are receiving the same service or product? That's something that I have been told multiple times that historically, vendors that come to Nashville state their price. And that's not the way that it should be. We're not negotiating, I think, as well as we should be. I know that there's some contracts that have been extended that are being paid outside of contract guidelines. there's a lot of things that we could be doing, and I think that's the biggest problem. I think most people understand that taxes, while it's not fun, are definitely necessary. I mean, every part of our government is funded by the people and the taxes that they pay, regardless of if it's sales tax or fees or property tax, whatever. And so sometimes an increase is necessary. If we felt like our government was being run efficiently and effectively, and an increase, a small increase was still necessary, that's something that's easier to swallow. I think the biggest problem that people have, especially on double digit, after 5 years ago having another huge tax increase, that people just go, "Are you serious? Like, what? How is it indicative of this government being run efficiently when within 5 years we've had 2 double-digit property tax increases?"
Yep. I mean, I totally agree with you, Courtney. It is frustrating for people, again, not only that live in Nashville, but all of Middle Tennessee. A lot of discussion on LPRs. You and I have spoken about LPRs before. I am wholeheartedly supportive of LPRs, license plate readers. There was an interview with the mayor, Matt Murphy. This was last Thursday. Matt tried to get some answers out of the mayor on where he stands on LPRs.
Would you approve license plate readers for the city of Nashville?
Yeah, and I think, to your point, what I would do is I would put forward the policy that we have ready to go, ready to present to Metro Council that we are confident could not pass Metro Council right now. We would put that in place, and we would...
LPRs have already passed.
Forward.
They've already passed.
The initial contracts have already passed. We have not been able to actually create the full implementation.
The Metro Council says that they're waiting on you.
Well, you might want to go back and check this with them, because
you've brought the contracts to them for approval?
We have not, but I'll tell you what.
Well, then how are they not waiting on you, Freddie?
Because did you see what happened a few weeks ago, Matt? They filed and then withdrew a resolution requesting that we bring the contracts because they weren't even close to enough votes.
All right, so that was Matt Murphy and Mayor O'Connell talking about where we are with LPRs. Care to comment?
So a couple of things are true and a couple of things are false. We do, in 2022, my policy passed. That was something that I had started working on in 2021. So it took a year and a half to get that passed, almost 2 years. So we do have a policy in place that passed for full implementation. The only thing that we're waiting for are the contracts. Freddie O'Connell's office has decided they want to amend the current policy. That's what he's talking about. But that's not necessary to implement LPRs. What's necessary is for the council to approve the contracts. Right now, he is correct in that I don't think that we have the votes, which is unfortunate. And Ms. Hancock, her resolution to ask the mayor's office to bring these contracts was, I think, misguided and untimely. My serious problem with it, though, is that he has had this in his lap since he was put into office in 2023. That's when the contracts should have been brought forth. What shows me that he has no intention and had no intention of bringing forth LPRs is that in his FY25 nor in his current FY26 recommended budget are LPRs funded. This year, MNPD requested $2.8 million to implement LPRs to pay for that program. That is not something that is in Mayor O'Connell's recommended budget right now. So if you don't have the money allocated, that shows lack of intent to get this done.
Well, it seems like there's a lack of an intent for him to tell the truth, because Murphy actually literally asked him if it was solely up to you, would you pass these? And then he said, yeah, but then he went into all of this other stuff about the contracts and so forth. And so it just doesn't sound like, if the money was literally not in his budget, then it sounds like he's not being truthful.
Well, and, actions speak louder than words. You can look back on the last term where he was a district council member, and I'm pretty sure that every single time he had an opportunity to vote on LPRs, he voted no. And so I think personally, he doesn't like the idea of LPRs. I know that people in his administration do not like LPRs. Dave Rosenberg is in the administration now. He was the number one opponent. I mean, it was literally like Johnston versus Rosenberg for a few years with this LPR argument. And so, it just is really frustrating. The other thing that's frustrating is that we have a council that is not responding to their constituency either.
Well, I want to, Courtney, if I may, I'm going to let you finish your thought, but I have this piece of audio I want to play for you that would lead into where you're going next. This is Mayor
go ahead and play it.
O'Connell talking about just that.
Council members tell us over and over again that these are not issues of local trust and confidence, that other changes in the federal and state landscape make them, they are paying attention to leadership at multiple levels right now, Matt.
Wait, so you're saying the council's not comfortable with LPRs because of federal leadership?
I am telling you
that's what you just said, Freddie. You just said the council's not comfortable because of state and federal leadership.
I am telling you that if FUSIS had been brought to the council before the election in November, I think it would have passed.
What do you say?
He may be right on that.
Mm-hmm.
He may be right on that. My thing about LPR, well, first of all, with FUSIS, again, these are cameras that already exist.
Right.
These are not new cameras. This is an integration software that allows MNPD to more quickly access those cameras for investigative purposes or responding to an active scene. LPRs, if you are an illegal immigrant, I highly doubt, with almost 100% certainty, that you do not have a vehicle that is registered in your name and an address that is actually valid. It is not a tool for immigration enforcement. It's just not. And I actually spoke with immigration attorneys that have a combined, 40-something years experience, and they said they have never, when any of their clients have been prosecuted, have never been had LPR data to use that. So it's just not an effective tool for that. But what it is an effective tool is keeping the rest of us safe and helping to find and locate missing people, stolen vehicles. It's an effective tool. We see it all the time. Mount Juliet is constantly, and other surrounding counties as well, catching criminals coming out of Davidson County with their LPR program.
Courtney, I live in Mount Juliet, and it's almost like every weekend we see these guys coming down from Davidson County, from Nashville, and they're getting busted by these LPRs. And the funny thing is, you would think that they would get the word out in Davidson County, don't go to Mount Juliet because they've got these cameras all over the place. It's come on. Anyway, Courtney, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I appreciate you being with us. Do you have anything you want to say for the next 30 seconds before I let you go? Let you have the final say.
I would just say, if you live in Davidson County, please make a point to reach out to your council members to let them know your thoughts about what you want to see with public safety and LPRs, and make it known your thoughts about the property tax increase as well. I think we need to start demanding efficiency and accountability and not just accepting the fact that property taxes are going to increase double digits every 4 years. All
right, Courtney Johnston, always great to have you on. Have a great rest of week. 7:55, running late but worth it. Joan Jones, what's coming up?
Well, Dan, what does Mayor Freddie O'Connell have to say about this weekend's ICE raids? And also, just 2 more days until Real ID becomes a real thing. We've got that and more coming up here at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.